You are their creator. You giveth them life and spirit.
Genetic engineering is the process of cutting and altering genes in an organism's DNA and transferring them in order to bring out favorable changes. The purpose of this science is to make an organism perform certain functions that it usually cannot perform. Genetic engineering has been around for thousands of years and originally was used by farmers who domesticated plants, such as corn, wheat, and rice, and selectively bred animals, such as the mule. In 1627, Francis Bacon predicted the future of genetic engineering in his book, New Atlantis. Centuries later, Gregor Mendel studied pea plant breeding and published his findings, which led the way for the modern study of genetics. Today, the entire Human Genome Project is known, and gene therapies have been successfully completed. The genetic engineering field now includes genetic selection, gene therapy, stem cells, and cloning.
We're only beginning to understand the information.
The first documented case of gene therapy occurred in 1990 on a young girl named Ashanti. Ashanti had a very rare disease known as severe combined immune deficiency that left her with no immune system or way to fight infection. In order to have a chance of survival with the disease, the girl would have to live in a type of bubble that would completely deprive her of human interaction, including with her family. Instead, she was given somatic gene therapy and was able to enroll herself in school and even get vaccinations for diseases. Somatic engineering is the process of targeting genes in specific organs and tissues of the body without affecting genes in the sperm or egg. Somatic engineering can be used to correct genes with defects that cause lifelong and deadly diseases, such as cystic fibrosis. There is no cure for these diseases because they are embedded in a person's genome, and there are no medicines available today that can alter the genetic information. The only plausible way to eradicate these deadly diseases will be to use genetic engineering. Genetic engineering can also alter the sex of an embryo, which would allow a couple to determine the gender of their child. This could be beneficial to couples that know that they definitely want a son or a daughter.
Most babies are accidents. Not me. I was engineered. Born to save my sister's life.
You don't want to saddle children with false expectations. The parents pick a kid to be smart, the kid doesn't succeed, now they're mad because they spent a lot of money to do this, they don't get what they want. We need more oversight of this industry, and I think this is going to turn out to be one of the biggest issues in the next 10, 15 years.
Genetic alteration could lead to an impression that people are products meant to be designed, perfected, and controlled. Parents would choose to design their child to be talented or more skilled in a particular area, like intelligence, instead of accepting them for who they are. This could lead to a deterioration in the quality of parenting if the child isn't interested in or doesn't succeed in the parent's intended goal.
To perfect the physical and mental characteristics of every unborn child.
The belief is that if people do become genetically engineered, anything they accomplish is due to their alteration, not their hard work or talent. The abilities and skills are no longer their own, but rather a product of science.
Imperfection built in already. No, your child doesn't need any additional burdens. And keep in mind, this child is still you. Simply the best of you.
Who's to say what's the better trait? Is it better to be redheaded than it is to be brown-haired? Is it better to have freckles or not? Those sorts of things I think are very subjective and in some ways driven by our culture.
If everyone was engineered, the human race would become more and more uniform. During World War II, Hitler attempted to remove certain traits from the gene pool to create what he thought would be a supreme race. Most would agree that this was unethical, but would gene selection through science make it suddenly acceptable? Who's to say which traits are desirable and which traits are bad? Would parents try to cure things such as short stature by gene selection?
This is the disaster everyone warns about. A new species set loose in the world.
We've documented the entire human genome, but that doesn't mean we know everything about it. Some genes are responsible for multiple traits. What if you select a gene without knowing the consequences? In mice, for example, it's possible to increase memory by altering a gene that also makes them more sensitive to pain. It's difficult to tell what all the side effects are without having done extensive research that can take decades and cost millions.
Investment
investment here is sizable. $120 billion to be exact. And I can't afford for them to reconsider.
What you tell them is your business, Doctor.
Cost to consumers would also play a factor in the ethics of genetic engineering. Since these treatments are expensive, only the wealthy would be able to afford them. The rich could afford to make their children more intelligent or more athletic, while the poor are left with whatever nature gives them. This would cause socioeconomic differences that would lead to separate genetic classes. Clearly, there are many factors to consider before genetic engineering becomes a commercialized process. If certain people are allowed to get gene therapy, what would the criteria be? Would it be okay for parents to select traits? Would insurance cover treatments if they are necessary for a normal life, like in Ashanti's case? Whatever we decide, scientists are already working on a future that may include genetically enhancing the human body in every way possible. In a study done in 2004, scientists were able to change the diet of a select group of soldiers to provide them with a modified version of carotene, a protein that allows you to see. Simply changing what they ate gave these soldiers infrared vision temporarily. It's very possible to change the genetics in the eye to match these results so that people can see infrared, even with a normal diet. Researchers are also working on figuring out what genes make a hawk's eye so powerful. One day, this gene could be transferred into humans, along with other enhancements. One of the most controversial areas of study pertain to the length of human life. It's been shown that it's possible to increase the life of mice by 10 to 15% just by modifying certain genes. Because mice and human genomes are very similar, it may be possible to increase the life of humans as well. In a world where overpopulation and lack of resources is already becoming a real problem, do we really need people to live longer? However, the future of genetic engineering isn't all bleak. It's possible that we will be able to cure disorders caused by genetic mutations. Scientists believe they can induce a genetic change in cells where the extra 21st chromosome that causes Down syndrome is slowly removed from all of the cells in the body. It may be even possible to cure Alzheimer's and other memory degradation disorders. Genetically engineering humans could help eradicate many genetic diseases which would otherwise have no cure. However, if handled incorrectly, genetic engineering could cause discrimination, super diseases, and possibly new species of humans. Genetic engineering is going to be a huge issue in the next 10 to 15 years, and it's up to us to decide what is ethically right and know where to draw the line.